The first time it happened, it didn't feel like anything. That's the part that bothers me now. It was a Tuesday, which meant the laundromat on Elm smelled like hot metal and detergent that tried too hard to be lavender. I came in at the same time every week, same machine, same cracked plastic chair by the window. Headphones in, not playing anything. Just there so no one talked to me. She was already there, sitting with her legs crossed at the ankle, folding clothes that weren't hers. I noticed that before I noticed her face. How careful she was with someone else's things, smoothing a sleeve twice before stacking it. Like she was buying herself a few extra seconds with each piece of fabric. "Hey," she said, when she saw me hesitate by the door. It surprised me that she remembered. I nodded, that half-nod people do when they're not sure if conversation is required. She went back to folding. I took the machine 2 down from hers. The one that eats quarters if you don't hold the slot just right. I did the trick with my thumb, same as always. She glanced over. "That one lies," she said. "The third one doesn't." I smiled without meaning to. Switch machines. She was right. We didn't talk after that. Just the sound of dryers and the tick of the wall clock that was always 5 minutes fast. I watched my phone light up and go dark again. No messages. I didn't open the group chat. I folded a napkin from my coffee cup into a square, then unfolded it, then folded it again like it might turn into something else if I got it right. When she stood up to move her basket, I noticed her hands. Not in a dramatic way, just how they moved. Steady. Familiar. Like they'd done a lot of work that didn't leave marks. "Jake's shirts," she said, nodding at the pile. "He never remembers to separate colors." I laughed, then stopped, realizing I knew that name. Jake. My friend. The guy I used to play pickup with on Sundays before schedules stopped lining up. "You're," I started. She smiled, not correcting me. "His mom." "Yeah." She said it like it wasn't the whole sentence. Like there was more to it, but we both decided not to say it. After that, it became a thing. Not a plan. Just overlap. Tuesdays. Sometimes Thursdays. She'd ask if I wanted the window seat. I'd pretend to think about it. She remembered I liked my coffee black when we ran into each other at the cafe next door. I pretended I didn't notice she ordered chamomile and never finished it. Once, she asked what I did with my afternoons. I told her the truth, which was nothing that sounded like an answer. She nodded like she understood anyway. There was a loneliness in it. Not in the way people talk about when they want sympathy. Just small habits. Leaving texts unsent. Pausing a podcast because it felt weird to hear voices in the room alone. Standing too long in grocery aisles reading labels. She didn't ask questions that needed finishing. She let sentences trail off and didn't rush to rescue them. Sometimes that felt like a relief. Sometimes it felt like standing too close to a ledge. One afternoon, as I was leaving, she handed me her thermos by mistake. Realized it halfway through the exchange. Our fingers brushed when we swapped back. Not sparks. Just warmth. "Sorry," she said. "It's fine," I said too quickly. She watched me go that time. I felt it before I saw it. That night, my phone buzzed while I was brushing my teeth. A text from an unknown number. "This is probably strange," it said, "but you left your napkin on the table." The folded one. Then, a second message. "If you want it back, I'll be at the laundromat tomorrow." Earlier than usual. I stared at the screen longer than I should have, toothbrush dripping into the sink, wondering why one sentence felt heavier than all the quiet before it. She was already there when I came in the next day. Earlier than usual, like she said. The machines were still waking up, that low groan they make before settling into rhythm. Morning light cut through the front windows and landed on the folding tables like it meant to stay. She held up the napkin when she saw me, still folded into that neat square. Like it mattered. "You're organized," she said. "I get bored," I said. Then, after a beat, "I fold things when I'm thinking." She smiled at that. Not the polite kind. The kind where something lands. We sat across from each other this time. No empty chair between us pretending we weren't choosing it. She poured tea from her thermos into the lid and slid it across. Chamomile again. I didn't comment on how she never finished it. "Jake says you don't talk much anymore," she said, not looking at me. I shrugged. "Schedules. Life." She said. The sound people make when they know that's not all of it, but won't push. She told me she'd been staying at her sister's place longer than planned. that the quiet felt heavier at night, that she sometimes left the TV on just to have something breathing in the room. It wasn't a confession, just a fact, offered gently. I told her I still had drafts of texts to people I wasn't sure still wanted them, that I sometimes reread old messages to remember how conversations used to sound when they were easy. I didn't look at her while I said it. My eyes stayed on the slow tumble of clothes behind the glass. She nodded once, like she recognized the habit. There were things we didn't say, like how she was my friend's mom, like how her ring wasn't on her finger anymore, but the tan line still was, like how I noticed when she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and immediately felt stupid for noticing. At one point, her washer buzzed. She stood, hesitated, then sat back down. "It can wait," she said. That felt like a decision, even if it wasn't one we named. I imagined things I didn't want to be imagining, sitting across from her somewhere else. Her voice sang my name like it belonged in her mouth. Then I imagined Jake's face if he ever noticed the way I leaned forward when she spoke. The guilt came quietly, slipped in like it had always been there. We folded laundry together, not touching exactly, just close enough that our hands crossed paths in the air. Once, she handed me a shirt and our fingers overlapped. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. It lasted half a second too long. Long enough to feel like something was happening without actually happening. "You're kind," she said suddenly. I laughed, reflexively. "I don't think so." She looked at me then. Really looked. "You listen." People confuse that with kindness, but it still counts. I didn't know what to do with that, so I nodded. When it was time to leave, she picked up the thermos, then paused, pressed it into my hands instead. "You can bring it back," she said. "Whenever." Our fingers touched again. This time, her thumb brushed my wrist. Casual. Accidental. Maybe. She walked out first. At the door, she turned, smiled, and said, "Take your time." I don't know why that stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally noticed how often I rushed through things that mattered. After that, I started showing up earlier than I needed to. Not rushing. Not waiting either. Just there. The thermos lived on my kitchen counter like a question I wasn't answering. Some mornings I filled it with coffee and didn't drink it. Let it go cold while I stood by the sink scrolling through nothing. She didn't come the next Tuesday. The chair by the window was empty. Her machine untouched. I told myself it meant nothing. Schedules. Life. The same word she'd used for me. On Thursday, she was there again. Different time. Different table. Folding faster than usual, like she was trying to beat something invisible. "Hey," I said. She looked up, smiled, but it didn't land the same. Her eyes flicked to the door, back to the pile of clothes. "Hi." I set the thermos down between us. Didn't push it toward her. "You forgot this," I said. She nodded. Took it. Didn't open it. "Thanks." That was it. The space stretched. Dryer doors thumped. A kid ran past chasing a sock. Normal things, doing what they always did. "I shouldn't," she started, then stopped. Pressed her lips together. Her hands went still on a towel, fingers curled like they were holding something fragile. I waited. Not because I was patient, because I didn't know how to move. She glanced at me. Away. Back again. "Jake mentioned you," she said finally. The words landed heavier than they should have. My stomach tightened. "Oh, just said you'd been around," she added quickly. "Nothing bad." I nodded. Too fast again. "That's when I realized," she said, quieter, "that I've been careless." The word hung there. Careless. Not wrong. Not impossible. Just that. I watched a drop of water fall from the rim of her thermos onto the table, spread into a thin, uneven shape. She wiped it with her sleeve, then froze, like she'd done something revealing. "I like talking to you," I said. It slipped out before I could shape it into something safer. She inhaled, held it, let it go slow. "I know," she said. "That's the problem." A woman walked in then. Someone she knew. A quick wave. A question about weekends. She shifted easily into that version of herself. Smiling. Grounded. I became furniture. A chair. A person who could be explained later or not at all. When the woman left, the quiet came back louder. She stood, grabbed her basket. "I need to go." I stood too. Too close. I could smell her soap. Something clean and almost familiar. "I don't want to make this hard," I said. She looked at me then. really looked. Her eyes searched my face like she was checking for damage. You already have, she said, not unkindly. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then landed on my arm, just above the wrist. Light, grounding, like she was steadying herself, not me. For a second, the space between us narrowed. Breath close enough to share. Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then back up. A half second where everything leaned forward. She pulled back first. Please, she said. Not a request. Not a command. Just the word. She left with the thermos tucked under her arm, and I stood there longer than necessary, aware of the exact place her hand had been, wondering what she'd almost said, and whether I would have let her finish. We didn't see each other for a week after that. Not intentionally. Just the kind of gap that pretends to be coincidence until it isn't. I went back to my usual times. Stayed longer than necessary. Left the thermos at home. Told myself that was the mature thing to do, which felt like a lie I didn't bother correcting. Then one evening, I found her sitting on the low bench outside the laundromat. No basket. No bag. Just her, hands folded in her lap, staring at the parking lot like she was waiting for a car that wasn't coming. I almost kept walking. Hey, she said, before I could decide. I sat at the other end of the bench. Too much space. Then, without commenting on it, I slid a little closer. Not close. Just not far. It's cooler out, she said. Yeah. Silence. The kind that isn't empty. The kind that presses. She watched a couple load groceries into a trunk. A kid climbed in the back seat backwards, laughing. She smiled at that. Then the smile faded like she'd remembered something else. I don't usually do this, she said. I waited. Sit around hoping someone will show up. I glanced at her hands. How still they were. Did you hope I would? Her breath caught. Just slightly. I didn't want to. That felt like a confession, even if it wasn't shaped like one. I saw you the other night, she added, eyes still forward. At the cafe. With that girl. I turned. You were there. I was leaving, she said. You didn't see me. The jealousy wasn't sharp. It was quieter than that. Worn. Like something she was tired of carrying. She's just... I stopped. The explanation felt unnecessary. Or dangerous. I know, she said. That's the problem. I know too much about you for this to be simple. I leaned back, staring up at the darkening sky. I don't want to be a mistake, I said. Her head turned then. Slowly. You aren't. The way she said it scared me more than if she'd hesitated. I'm the one who should know better, she continued. I'm the one with history. With a son who trusts me. With enough years to recognize when something is slipping. Then why are you still here? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her hand lifted, then dropped back to her lap. Lifted again. This time it found my knee. Barely. A question disguised as balance. Because when I talk to you, she said softly, I don't feel like I'm disappearing. The words settled between us. Heavy. Honest. I turned toward her. She didn't pull away. Her face was close enough now that I could see the faint line between her brows, like she was always halfway through deciding something. If I asked you to stop seeing me, she said, would you? I thought of the empty chair, the folded napkin, the thermos cooling on my counter, all the quiet places she'd filled without trying. I don't know, I said. Her eyes closed for a second. When they opened, they were wet but steady. That's what scares me, she whispered. Her thumb pressed lightly into my knee. Stayed there. Didn't move. Neither of us leaned in. Neither of us stood up. The question sat between us, unanswered, breathing for both of us now. After that night, she stopped coming. Not gradually. Not with an excuse. Just gone, like a light switched off in a room I didn't realize I'd been standing in. I told myself it was relief. That this was the clean outcome. I went back to my old times. Brought a book. Finished it. Left when the machines were done instead of lingering. The bench outside stayed empty. The chair by the window stayed just a chair. On the fourth day, I saw Jake. He was leaning against his car, phone pressed to his ear, laughing in that easy way he always had. When he spotted me, he waved me over without breaking the call. Yeah, Mom's still staying at Aunt Lena's, he said into the phone. Nah, she's fine. Just dealing with stuff. The word Mom landed differently now. Louder. He hung up and clapped me on the shoulder. You've been around the neighborhood a lot lately, he said. Not accusing. Just noticing. Yeah, I said. Laundry. He nodded. Then, casual. She mentioned you. My chest tightened. Yeah. Just said you were kind. That you helped her feel less invisible for a bit. He smiled, unaware. She does that. Gets attached to routines when she's stressed. Attached. Routine. Words that shrank everything down to something manageable. Something harmless. That night, I checked my phone more than usual. Nothing from her. I drafted a message anyway. Hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay. I didn't send it. The next day, I saw her car in the driveway again. Lights on. Curtains drawn. I stood on the sidewalk longer than necessary, keys warm in my hand. Imagine knocking. Imagined her opening the door, surprised, relieved, guarded. I imagined Jake's face if he ever knew how close his mom's hand had come to mine. I went home instead. Days passed. Then a week. The thermos stayed on my counter, empty now, like it had given up waiting to be useful. I moved it to a cabinet. Took it back out. Put it by the door. Small negotiations with myself. One evening, a voicemail came through. Unknown number. I listened to it standing in my kitchen. Her voice. Quieter than I remembered. I didn't mean for things to blur, she said. A pause. The sound of her breathing. I've spent years teaching myself how to leave rooms before anyone notices I was there. You made that harder. Another pause. I'm not disappearing because of you. I'm doing it because of me. The message ended without goodbye. I sat down on the floor with my back against the cabinet. Let the phone rest in my palm like it might keep speaking if I stayed still enough. I went to the laundromat once more after that. Same day, same time. Her seat was empty. Someone else had taken the machine she used to warn me about. I folded my clothes quickly. Didn't bother with the napkin. As I left, I typed a message I didn't send. I would have waited. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. I saw her again on a Thursday evening. The sky was low and gray, the kind of light that made the neighborhood look smaller, quieter. She was on her porch, sipping from the thermos, legs crossed at the ankle. Same posture, same folding of hands, same habit of pretending she wasn't expecting me. I stopped a few steps away. My fingers itched to knock, but I waited. Half of me wanted to run. Half of me wanted to step into that quiet and stay. Hey, I said finally, voice smaller than I meant. She looked up. That faint, unreadable smile. One of those smiles that tells you she's thinking something complicated and maybe you'll never fully understand. Hey, she said back. The pause stretched. I could hear a dog barking somewhere down the street, a car door shutting. She sipped tea, then set the cup down with a soft clink. I didn't expect you to come, she said. Not accusing, not inviting, just a statement. I didn't expect to be here, I admitted. But, I stopped. The words wouldn't form. She tilted her head slightly, watching me. You're thinking of leaving. Again. I swallowed. No, not leaving. But that wasn't exactly true. I'd imagined walking away every day for the past week. Imagined it. Practiced it. Felt the relief before it even happened. Then stay, she said. The words weren't dramatic. Just steady. Grounded. I did. Stepped onto the porch, just a little closer. Not too close. Close enough to notice the faint scent of her soap, the softness in the way she moved her hands over her cup. I didn't know if I should say anything. I confessed. If I could. If I should. It's complicated. Complicated, she echoed, like she'd been holding the same word inside herself. I swallowed again. Let the weight of everything we hadn't said settle between us. The guilt, the longing, the quiet weeks of absence. The things that would make sense only if we ignored everything else. Then she reached out. Lightly. My fingers brushed hers over the rim of the cup. No sparks. No fire. Just warmth. Real and human. I don't want to hurt anyone, she said softly. I don't want to, I said too. But I didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. She held my gaze. The thermos sat between us, the muted clink of its lid the only sound. Finally, she let go of my hand. Smiled. Not a romantic smile. Not a promise. Just an acknowledgement. Okay, she said. I nodded. Okay. The moment wasn't fireworks. It wasn't confession or surrender. It was the quiet gravity of someone noticing you, of letting yourself be seen. And for now, that was enough. Weeks slipped by after that porch evening. Not in a hurry. Not in leaps. Just ordinary days that somehow felt a little warmer. I stopped timing my mornings at 8:47 a.m., the way I used to watch the laundromat clock, but I still found myself walking past it sometimes, hoping to see her light on the porch. Most mornings, she wasn't there. Some mornings, she was, leaning over a cup of black coffee, hair tucked behind her ear, reading a newspaper she didn't finish. We fell into a rhythm, not announced, not planned, a slow orbit of shared spaces and quiet recognition. Tuesdays at the laundromat became ours again, but with pauses and laughter now, not just folded clothes. She reminded me of machines that lied. I remembered to separate colors. We argued lightly over the thermos. Mine stayed black, hers still chamomile, half drunk. We talked more. About Jake, about life, about the routines we clung to and the little freedoms we took in them. But we never named what had hovered in the spaces before. The hand on the cup, the near confession, the silence that felt heavy enough to lean on. It didn't need a name. The trust had been earned in small moments. A chair pulled closer, a napkin left behind, a smile that lasted long enough to mean something. One evening, we walked past the park bench where we'd almost crossed the line. She laughed at a memory, a kid tripping over a toy, and I leaned over, steadying her lightly. No words, just a touch that carried every pause we'd survived. The past months hadn't been perfect. We'd missed days, let messages go unanswered, retreated when shadows of doubt crept in. But the quiet persistence of being present for each other had done more than words ever could. Coffee cups, folded clothes, shared silence. They became our shorthand. Comfort, not spectacle. The kind of love that doesn't announce itself, but that grows in the cracks of ordinary life. One morning, I poured my black coffee, the thermos warm in my hand. She came in, carrying hers, eyes meeting mine just long enough to catch a flicker of amusement. "Forgot your napkin again," she teased softly. I smiled, folding it carefully into the square we'd perfected together. "Maybe I did," I said. She leaned back, the sun spilling over her shoulder, and let out a quiet sigh. A little laugh. A little acknowledgement of everything we'd been through without ever naming it. And I realized then, the story wasn't in the words, or the near misses, or even the hands brushing. It was here, in the spaces between, the routines kept, the warmth that stayed. I didn't feel like a young man and a woman trying to fit into each other's lives anymore. I felt like two people who had quietly chosen each other, again and again, without ever needing a declaration. She looked at me, eyes soft, and smiled. I returned it, the simplest motion of understanding. One day at a time, one fold, one sip, one pause at a time. Only we would ever fully know what that meant. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?